tonight I want to spend a little bit of time. Last week we talked about the situation in Eastern Europe and how it relates to Bible prophecy, specifically out of Ezekiel 38, Daniel chapter 11, and in the book of Revelations as well. It's a lot that's there. A lot of people have taught on that for years, and I think everybody's got a different opinion on it. But we told you what the history we saw is and was, and what we think might happen. And you know, things can change in a minute. They can escalate overnight. And what you thought would take 40 years could happen next week. We don't know. So it pays to be ready. But I want to talk to you tonight about something, and I want to call it the war on truth. And I believe that this plays into the spirit of Antichrist, and how, you know, we've talked about there'll be a great delusion, and there'll be a great deception, there'll be a great falling away. I kind of wanted to point out some things of how it is taking place in the world. You have to understand that for the past at least 50 years or 60 years, most of the world leaders are globalists. In other words, they want the whole world to be one. Now, we all know, hey, Ms. Ruby, we all know that fits into a one world government and all that kind of stuff. But the way that you can get people united is to, first of all, dilute the truth, what the actual truth is, and then project a lie. So next week I'll be talking about a great lie that I believe that they really are pushing and using to do this. But we'll start out with John chapter 1, verse 1, and we're going to look at a scripture here, and then we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to talk about the plan, I believe, of Satan and how he's working. This is an important lesson for everybody to know, but especially those who have young children or have an influence on young children. Because, and I'll talk about that, the reason why. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Now we know that the Word in verse number 12, it says he became flesh and dwelt amongst us. So the Word is Jesus Christ. And the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. So when we say this word, when we say the Word was God, we're talking about Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ is divine wisdom. He's divine wisdom in all creation. He's divine wisdom in all government and in the redemption of the world. And he is, you know, the second part of the Trinity. But the ancient Greek philosophy is that the Word or the truth is the controlling principle for the whole universe. So the whole universe is built on Jesus Christ, who he said, what did he say? I am the way, I am the truth. So the whole universe, everything in the universe, all knowledge, all creation, everything that can be known, will be known, is in him. So if that is the truth, and Satan is the Antichrist, guess what he wants to attack? Anti-truth. He wants to come after the truth. He cannot defeat the truth. Amen? He's defeated. But he can attack the truth in our minds and in our heart and in the world. So his plan of attack is to attack the truth. Anything that's ever been known is through Jesus Christ. So I'm going to give you some words here today. And here are some of these great tools of deception and attacking the truth of the Antichrist. I talked to you last week about a term called radical Islamic fascism. That's one. It attacks the truth of Jesus Christ. And it is a major one. 80 years ago it wasn't, but now it is. And we talked last week about the alignment of what's going on in Russia with these nations who are governed by these Islamic fascists. Then there is aggressive secularism. In other words, what that is a worship of man. That puts man at preeminence. Secularism, humanism, is basically putting man in charge of the whole universe. When I talk about that great lie next week, you'll see how man has elevated themselves. Secularism is, it takes God out of everything and it points to humans as the solution for everything. If there's a problem, if there's racism, we can solve it. But Jesus said, I got to change your heart before you can be solved. Yep. If it's the climate, we can solve it. But God's in control of it. A war, we can solve it. So anyway, other terms for this secularism are socialism, communism, and fascism. All these isms. But what they are is a spirit of Antichrist that comes to attack the truth, who is God, the truth of God's Word. So now, over the past 50 years, or more, even before that, 60 years, we have tried in this country to solve moral dilemmas through the court system. Right? So somebody said, I don't want to pray in school. I don't want my child praying in school. Took it to the court. What did the court say? Somebody said, it's my body, my choice. I don't want this child. Took it to the court. What did the court say? The court is humanistic and secularistic. So they pulled God out of every public place. And they're still doing it today. They're pulling him out. What did I say? They attack that. They go against that. You cannot solve these issues in a court. And so what you've got into is people say, I know the truth. And you don't know the truth. And so what they'll say, Ronnie, because I've seen you on Facebook kind of debate a few people a time or two. And because they made a statement. And you said, well, that's not right. They'll say it's my way or it's your way. But my way is the right way. Your way is the wrong way. But there's only one way, and it's God. Because you can debate people as much as you want. Nobody ever wins. Because truth stands for itself. And you can't convince me of the truth. Holy Spirit has to do it. So they do that. And they use is this term called relativism. Everything is relative. So when you use that term, it really means that the right way doesn't exist. But it does. It does exist. Let me give you this popular thought today to kind of sum up how this thinking takes place. And here's the statement. What I know for sure is that speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we have. Let me just give you that quote again. What I know for sure is that speaking your truth, not the truth, but your truth, is the most powerful tool we all have. That was a quote by Oprah Winfrey. I mean, they wanted to give her the Nobel Prize for saying that. What she was saying was, whatever your truth is what you need to go after. There's no such thing, John, as your truth. Don, there's no such thing as my truth. There is the truth. Jesus said, I am the truth. So when I begin to say my truth, then every thought that you or I express, they say, well, it really doesn't matter. That's just your what? Opinion. That's just what you say, Mom. Yeah, that is your truth, your opinion. But if mine differs from yours, they say, well, that's just your opinion. So then there's nothing. There's nothing to stand on. Everything is based upon your opinion or how you feel about something. Well, how do you feel? You know what people always say? Ruby, they say, follow your heart. That's the greatest lie from Satan ever. Because your heart will deceive you. The Bible says it is. Your heart will lead you. You have to follow the truth, the light. He said he was the light and it came into the darkness and the darkness overcame him not. You have to follow this truth. But if everybody is teaching you and your children that your truth is the truth, then there is nothing to stand on. So everybody determines their own truth. But in James chapter 5, I want to look at that real quick. Kind of see what this leads to when everybody has their own truth. Chapter 1, verse 5 says, if any of you lacks wisdom or doesn't know the truth, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and he will give it, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith with no doubting. For the one who doubts, look at this, is like a wave of the sea, is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, and he's unstable in all of his ways. So if there is no absolute, if you got your truth, I got my truth, everybody in this room, there's 40 different truths. Because some of you got 2 or 3 different truths. There's no foundation. There's nothing to stand on. There's nothing concrete. Do you know why then people get so much anxiety? Because everything changes so fast. That is a tactic of the enemy. He first attacks the truth, right? Weakens the truth, and then he starts changing everything. He starts moving the boundaries and the goalposts. You can't have a conversation with anybody today. You walk up to somebody and say, how you doing, sir? And they liable to just be so offended at you because you assumed that they were a man. That's so confusing, isn't it? That's what the enemy wants. And you'll be unstable. See, that's why it looks crazy. We talked about this the other week. There's a man that says he's a woman but is engaged to a woman. I don't get it. If you shift the truth, the picture's painted in Matthew chapter 7. We won't go there. But Jesus gives the parable of a man who built his house on the sand and one who built his house on the rock. And if the truth shifts, then you have no firm foundation. You have a shifting foundation. And anything built on it is going to fall in. And that's what the enemy wants. He wants chaos. He wants chaos. He wants anarchy. He wants everything to listen, here's the plan now. Get me again. I can go back to prophecy. I can go back to 1 Thessalonians Second Thessalonians and talk about the spirit of the Antichrist that is to come. But what he wants to do, he wants to be chaos. And then he comes in and says, I've got the answers. I can get you peace in the Ukraine. I can get peace in the Middle East. I can get the economy back where everybody's got food on the table. And everything will be good. And everybody will flock to this person. But he's a liar. And what he's telling is not true. What he's doing then, he's taking the place of the truth. That's his goal. Because remember when he went to Jesus, Satan did? He said, if you will bow down and worship me. Remember that? That's what he wants. And if he can't get him to do it, he'll get us to do it. So there is an attack on the truth, a shifting of the truth. Everybody's got their own truth. And then there is the loss of Christian influence on the culture today. Sad to say, but we have dropped the ball and dropped it big time. We've failed. There's a failure of ethics. It's not a failure of commerce. It's not a failure of the actual business world, the way it's set up. Everybody said, well, it's Wall Street. No, it's a lack of ethics on Wall Street. It's a lack of ethics in the banking community. It's a lack of ethics in the government because you lose morality. And the morality that was tied was Western civilization, which was based on Christianity. When you lose that influence, you see where we're at today and where we have been. It ain't just Bernie Madoff. You know, it's not just the wolf of Wall Street. It's not just it's all of them. Because you've lost Christian influence in there. That's why a man's word is no longer a man. It ain't worth anything. You can sign a contract and a covenant. It ain't worth nothing. You know what they'll say? That's what lawyers are for. We can break that. And so, in doing so, not only that, on Wall Street, but we've abandoned the concept of work and deferred gratification. You understand what I'm saying by deferred gratification? If I plant a seed, if I use today's mentality, I plant a seed today, I want to go out there tomorrow and get me a tomato. I want it right now. But we have a generation that don't even plant seed. They just want it. They look at what you got and say, that's good, I want it. There's the ethic of working for it, of sweating for it, of paying your debt as you go. That's gone. Let me tell you something, guys. I want to tell you something. I saw this statistic the other day and it just jumped out to me. There's 22, that's 22, trillion, that's trillion, dollars sitting in retirement accounts just in this country. $22 trillion. Okay? I'm just going to tell you right now. I'm going to give you a clue. There's people out there plotting and planning and scheming to find a way to gain access to that money. You work for it, and they want it. And friend, I want to tell you, if they can do it, they will do it. And it won't be a thing in the world you can do about it. They didn't work for a single minute for it. They want it because there's no concept. You have greed, you have corruption, you have fraud, and you have deceit because, again, there is no truth. Right? So my truth could be, hey, all's fair in love and war. All's fair in how you play this game. I just played it better than you. I don't gamble. You know why I don't gamble? Because I don't like to lose money. But if you play with a good gambler, if he wins, He's going to be like, hey, I didn't ask you to play. Sorry for you. Back in the old days, they'd pull down on one another. Listen, if Christ is not in the marketplace, then the marketplace fails. And that's what we see happening. Listen to me, a free society will terminate. A free society will terminate when people fail to act ethically. It won't stand. And we see that crumbling. There'll be a tipping point. And when you get to that tipping point, society is no longer free and tyranny takes over. Listen, you just got to study a little bit of history. You don't have to go back to Rome. You ain't got to go back to Babylon. You can go back to the 20th century and see it happen. And it happened overnight. It seemingly. I want to tell you, I say this a lot, and people are thinking it takes a long time. Adolf Hitler came to power, actual power, in 1933, right? 1939, Second World War started. 6 years. That's all it took. The reason why it was so quick is because Europe at that time had no ethics, had no morals, had everything going except Christ. And it's still that way today. So there was a vacuum there. And when there's a vacuum there, evil just steps right in. Y'all got me? So we have a society that has no moral truth, and then nothing really a conscience to guide. And if you have that, then you're lost. So we've seen that. We've seen people abandon the Christian principle of personal responsibility. The cause of crime and the rise of incarceration is not due to poverty or environment. It's due to wrong moral choices. Now, listen, I understand that the home has been destroyed. It happened in the 60s, and it happened under the government's plan to end poverty. The war on poverty, they called it. But it was actually a war on families. And listen, from the mid-1970s, the prison population in this nation was 230,000.
Wow.
Today, it's 2.3 million in one generation because the families were destroyed. I could ask Ronnie and he could tell you. You talk to those inmates, they were in a single-parent home or a no-parent home. They might have had a mama, but she wasn't there. They had nobody. I talked to one friend of mine and said, we used to have grandmas, but now grandma's in the club with the children. Right? It has happened. Because of this self-gratification right now. In other words, I'm not going to work for it. Somebody's going to give it to me, and that's what the government wants to do. That is in that has no respect of race, no respect of ethnicity. It has to do with a failure of the family, and it's wrong moral choices. Now, I want you to hear what I'm saying to you, and if you're listening, I want you to hear what I'm saying to you. There's a lack of moral training and moral thought in the formative years of childhood. Those formative years are from ages 5 to 10. Okay, listen to me. That's kindergarten to the 4th or the 5th grade. That's where they train. Listen, why do you think they got these drag queen story hours to 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th graders? Why? You know, Satan knows what he's doing. That's the years that you get them. That's the years that you get the influence in them. That's why it's my heart that when we can, that we focus on our kids' ministry. We got to. And we got to focus on training up parents to teach their children, because that enemy wants to get them. We used to say this, Brother Sheriff, if you raise your kids up, you got to be real careful sending them to college, because college, a lot of times, will get them. Well, I tell you right now, college can get them 100% of the time now. But it ain't just college anymore. It starts in kindergarten. It starts in preschool, because that's where you develop morals. And they're after our children. Knowing what is right, but doing the right thing. The National Education Association and the Department of Education, which was instilled in the 70s. And if you look at the schools and the learning rate, it has gone down to pot ever since they instilled it. Just recently in Florida, they passed a law where you cannot talk about sex up past this age, right, in school. You know why? Because kindergartners were being told, if you think you're a boy and you're a girl, well, then you need to explore that. And so the world is looking at that and say it's a hate law. They call it don't say gay law. But what they're doing is saying that it should be left to the families and to the homes, not to the school, to educate your children about their gender and their sexuality. You understand what I'm saying? But the world just has blasted them. Why? Because they know. You get them when they're little. And then I want to say some things that probably make some of you mad, and then I'm going to wrap it up. I may do just enough tonight to make everybody mad with me. Trusting in a misplaced hope. We're citizens of the kingdom, and we're living as citizens in the kingdoms of men, which means that we participate in politics, we vote, we make our choice known. You can support a candidate, you can do whatever you want to. I'm not saying that. We're free to do that. But I want to say this right now, and it may make you mad. It is not the answer to the problems of the world. And it does not give lasting hope. And listen, I was involved in it ever since Jerry Falwell's moral majority. We have walked the wrong way. I understand what they were trying to do. I understand they were trying to elect people to do things. But listen, they've been doing that since the 70s, and we still got the laws on the books. I'm going to give you one example. When President Obama was in office, we had at one time, we had a Senate majority and a House majority, right? They voted to stop the funding to Planned Parenthood. Well, President Obama, everybody knew he was going to veto it, right? The next election cycle still had that majority and a president that would sign it. They didn't even offer the law into it. They didn't even do it. Because you know why?
They knew it was going.
They knew he would sign it. What I'm saying, guys. And this is all these political PACs and these religious organizations that support them. They ain't doing nothing for you. That's a wrong hope to have. Politics is an illusion. And if you put your trust in it, you're going to lose your freedom. But let me tell you something else. Politics does not influence culture. Culture influences politics. Politics cannot change culture, but culture changes politics. So the politicians that are in office are a result of the culture of the country. If they're ethical, the country's ethical. If they're crooked, the country's crooked. We getting what we are. I got to move, and I'm going to move fast. Politics is formed from the culture. But we've been given dominion over everything on the earth. We have. And we don't need to depend on a politician to get it done for us. Again, we participate in it. We live in it. But we don't put our hope in it. And I want to tell you something. This is probably what's going to make some of y'all mad. In 2016, God gave me a word. And he gave me this word, the Egyptian deception. And I got it archived, and I recorded it because I knew this day would come. And he told me in that message that he gave me that the Christian church, if they're not careful, they're going to put too much hope in Donald Trump. That's what he told me. And I'm here to tell you today, we did that. And because we did that, he didn't get elected. If we had not done that, he would have got elected. I'm going to tell you, God puts in office who he wants to put in office. God is not pleased when he sees his children putting too much hope in a man. Yes. Now, he did a lot of great things. I voted for him. But he was also, I don't want to vote for him again. I will if I have to. You understand what I'm saying? But I saw religious leaders and people just almost idolatry with that man. Okay? By the same token, folks, if you voted for Biden, you voted for everything that's going on today. You voted for this abortion. You voted for gay marriage. You voted for everything that it stands for. And if you did that, I'm just going to have to tell you, you'll have to answer to God, not me. And I don't want to. I can't. So I covered it all. I made everybody mad. So what do we do about it? Well, we just declare over ourselves that our loyalty is to Christ, and we will not be compromised. Not to a political party, even though we may vote that political party way. Not to that party, not to that man, but to Christ alone. Listen, when you look at President Trump, I'm going to say it again. Integrity and character does matter. Yep. And listen, you might have said it, and I'm not judging you and I'm not beating you over the head. But I heard a lot of people say, well, I ain't electing a preacher. I'm electing a president. I understand what you're saying, but listen, I want my president to be just as moral and ethical as my preacher. Yes. That's right. More so. More so. We have to honor human life. We have to stand on that. We can't waver on that. We can't negotiate on that. And that's what we have done by electing people that get in there and make games with this stuff. Abortion is not political. It is a sin in the sight of God. And this country, until it repents of that, is going to see more and more and more of what's happening. I had a buddy that heard that message that I preached that night. Told me that it was Tad told me the other Friday night. He said, I remember what you said. He said, it ain't over with, is it? I said, nope. I said, instead of repenting and doing what is right, it's like we got behind a semi-truck loaded with gasoline and put the pedal down straight toward hell. We're just driving as fast as we can. My God, help us. Now, I'm going to end with this. I want you to watch these two terms when politicians say it. I'm telling you what to do about politicians. I'm saying vote. And you vote what God says. And you let him take care of the man. But character does matter. So if we got some candidates out here that's got better character, let's get one of them up there. Come on, somebody. Well, Ben Carson, man, was a great candidate. Why didn't we vote for him? Why didn't we get him in there? I did. Exactly. I did. That was, we made that choice. Here's the terms, and I want you to hear this. Freedom of religion and freedom to worship. You think they're the same thing. And they're used, you can bring, if you can bring that up here to me. They're used by us interchangeably. But by political powers, they're not. Because here's the difference. When you hear a politician say, I believe in the freedom to worship, what he's saying is, I believe you can worship God in the privacy of your own home or in your church, but you don't bring it out into the public place. Freedom of religion means that I can exercise my faith anywhere, anytime, any place. So when you hear politicians say, well, you're free to worship inside these four walls, but you better not do it on your job. There's a difference. Okay? My God. I went too long. David told me to hurry.